Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Larki. I make lifestyle and true crime videos. If you're not, welcome back and thank you for joining me for another video. Today's video is a true crime video and we're going to be doing a minute mysteries. Now, if you're new to my channel, I basically have this little series where I find a bunch of cases that don't have that much information and I compile them all into one video so that everyone's story gets told. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. The first two cases are the cases of Laresha Deana Walker and Wanda Faye Walker. Now, these two disappearances happened at two separate times, but you'll see why I'm kind of including them together. Laresha was born on January 2nd, 1976 to Wanda Faye and Sydney Walker. There isn't much information out there about her upbringing, but she did have two sisters and she went by the name of Deana, which was her middle name. In 1999, Deana had just moved into a new place located at 3858 Edwards Avenue in East Nashville. And this is a townhouse that she had for herself and for her 2-year-old son, Rayvon. On November 19th, 1999, Deana drove over to her sister Lakeisha's house to drop off Rayvon for the night because the next morning she was planning on driving to Murfreesboro to get her car appraised. And this wasn't out of the ordinary. Deana's sisters would often babysit her son for her. For each other, really. So this is something completely normal. After dropping off Rayvon, Deana drove home, and I'm assuming she probably didn't have much plans for the night, knowing that she would have to wake up early the next day. The only other thing we know Deana did that night was talk on the phone with her father, Sydney, at around 9:30 to 10 o'clock. The next day, when Deana hadn't come pick up Rayvon, Lakeisha drove over to her house. And it's not really clear around what time she did this. The way that I think of it is, this was 1999. She probably didn't have a cell phone, so it probably wasn't the sort of thing where she was like calling her cell phone and couldn't reach her. She probably tried the landline, couldn't reach her, and figured it'd be easier if she just drove over there. When Lakeisha arrived to Deana's house, she noticed that there were no signs of Deana anywhere, but the lights were on and there was music on blast. The only other thing she noticed was that the screen door was locked, like to get into the house. She turned off the lights and the music and then made her way out. And as she was leaving, she also noticed that Deana's car, which was a 1995 Oldsmobile Ashiva with Tennessee plates, was missing. And the car had a distinct long scratch on the driver's side, so it would have been easy to spot if someone was just like driving around looking for it. Lakeisha returned to Deana's house the next day on November the 21st to see if Deana was around. And when she still didn't find her, she called her mother Wanda, and then Wanda reported Deana missing to the police. Police learned through Deana's neighbors that they heard her arguing outside on the night of the 18th, which was the last day that Deana's family saw her. And when they searched her house, they saw that the clothes that Deana was last seen wearing was all inside the house. And Deana had a heart condition that she took medication for, which police also found inside the home. Deana was a very private person, so her family didn't really know of everyone that she hung out with, and she wasn't dating anyone either. But she always stayed out of trouble, she made sure that herself and her son were safe. And another thing to mention was that Deana had just moved into the townhome about a month before she went missing. So it's not like everyone really knew like where she lived, or at least anyone that she knew, like they weren't really aware of where she lived like that. Because of this, police kind of started to believe that she may have been abducted. The Walker family had hope that one day they would find out what happened to Deana, but instead they faced more heartbreak. 17 years later, Deana's mother, Wanda, went missing. On October 5th, 2016, Wanda was scheduled for work at Dollar Tree, and alarms were kind of raised when she didn't show up for her shift. Now, Wanda lived with her cousin on the 1400 block of 11th Avenue South in Nashville. On the afternoon she went missing, Wanda had reportedly called her boyfriend, Harold Henderson, because her car had broken down on the side of the road. It had overheated, so he came to check it out. Wanda drove a Nissan Maxima. When Harold came to check it out, he added oil to it, and then he realized it ran fine after that, so the two parted ways. This would be the last time that Wanda would be seen. 1 week later, Wanda's car was found on the 1100 block of Wade Avenue in Nashville, and people who lived in the area had reported to police that the car had been there for about a week. When police found the car, it was locked. Inside, they found Wanda's purse and some blood in the back seat. and the blood was later confirmed to be Wanda's. Since then, there have been no further developments in Wanda's disappearance, and police do not believe that Wanda and Deana's cases are related, though it's crazy to think that these two disappearances could happen to the same family. It's like they never got a chance to get answers for one family member, and now they have to deal with it all over again with the second one. The next case is the disappearance of Cleashindra Hall, who went by CLEA for short. CLEA was born on March 30th, 1976 to Willie and Laurel Hall. She was 18 years old when she disappeared from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and although she was young, she had a bright future ahead of her. CLEA was an honor student at Watson Chapel High School, and she was actually meant to be the valedictorian for her high school graduation. She had just landed an internship at a doctor's office in Boston for the summer, and she had been accepted to the Tennessee University's pre-med program, which she was excited about because she had dreams of being a pediatrician. CLEA's graduation was the first step towards her future, but unfortunately she disappeared just 2 weeks before graduation. May 9th, 1994 was a Monday, and it was a regular Monday, you know, when you have a busy weekend and you're just getting into the swing of things. This was the case for CLEA. On the previous Friday, she had gone to prom. On Saturday, she had a sorority ball that she attended, and that Sunday was Mother's Day, and she spent the day celebrating with her family. So when Monday came around, she was getting into the swing of, you know, school and work and all of her everyday responsibilities. That evening, CLEA was scheduled to work at her part-time job that she worked after school and some weekends. She did clerical work at the home office of Dr. Larry Amos. Dr. Amos wasn't a medical doctor. He ran a nonprofit organization, so it's most likely that he has a PhD. This hasn't been able to be confirmed, like whether or not he had at any point in his life a medical license, but this is just a side note. For the most part, CLEA had this job because it was good experience for her. CLEA only lived a few blocks away from Dr. Amos's office, but her parents typically drove her to and from work because they didn't really want her walking. That evening was no different. CLEA's mom, Laurel, dropped her off at Dr. Amos' office just before 5 with the intention of picking her up later on that evening. At around 8 o'clock, CLEA called home and Laurel answered, and CLEA asked her if she had any messages on the answering machine. Remember, this was 1994. Laurel told her that she didn't. CLEA told her mother that she was going to spend a little bit more time working and that she would give her a call when she was ready to get picked up. Laurel fell asleep waiting for CLEA's call. CLEA never worked past like 10:30, and Laurel would typically, you know, doze off on the couch, take a quick nap, but she would always get woken up by the phone. So this night, she got woken up by her husband, Willie, who had just come home from work and realized CLEA was at home. Now this was around 12:45, so it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. Laurel immediately called Dr. Amos, who picked up the phone after just one ring. Like, you had to be pretty close to the phone at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to answer the phone so quickly. But Laurel asked Dr. Amos if CLEA was still working for some reason, and Dr. Amos answered that she had gone home already. She signed out of work at around 8:30 when she got picked up by someone. She got in that person's car and left, but Dr. Amos didn't see who it was that she left with. At first, Laurel was pretty annoyed. She figured that CLEA was probably, you know, trying to be a little bit more independent now that she had just turned 18 and she was graduating high school soon. You know, maybe she was trying to get a taste of like what being an adult would be like and making her own decisions. But when morning came and CLEA still hadn't come home, she started to get a little worried. Although CLEA hadn't come back home, they thought she for sure wouldn't miss school. CLEA had band practice that Tuesday morning, so she was expected to be at school earlier than usual. When her little brother got to school, he looked for CLEA everywhere and didn't find her, which was pretty out of character. CLEA was not the type of person to ever get in trouble. She never got detention and she never acted out. CLEA's little brother called his parents to let them know that she hadn't come to school, and Laurel and Willie then contacted police to file a missing persons report. Police told the Halls that they wouldn't be able to file the missing persons report because CLEA was 18 and it hadn't been 24 hours yet, so they had to wait. While they waited, Willie and Laurel figured that they'd call everyone that they knew to see if anyone had seen or heard from CLEA. And the hours went by and no new information came in. When 5 o'clock came around, the Halls drove over to the police station to file the missing persons report, But right off the bat, police weren't too concerned. CLEA was over 18, so they just kept assuring the Halls that, she was probably out with her friends and she would come home eventually. And because of this, police didn't really do too much in the initial days of the investigation. Laurel knew something was wrong, so the Halls took it upon themselves to start their own search. Not only had CLEA never done anything like this before, but her purse, ID, and other personal belongings were still in her bedrooms. So it's not like she would just pick up and leave with nothing. CLEA's family conducted their own search. They searched the wooded area across from the Amos house, and they also posted missing persons flyers all over town. After 2 weeks, police finally got involved in the investigation and they searched Larry Amos's office. They didn't find anything suspicious, but CLEA's family was very critical of this because police waited 2 weeks before they did anything, and they believed that if something had happened in Dr. Amos's office, 2 weeks would have been enough time for him to get rid of evidence. Police didn't have a search warrant when they conducted the search of Dr. Amos's property. He just allowed them to come in and have a look around. And at first he was very compliant, he was very helpful, but not too long after the search had started, Dr. Amos switched up completely and made the police leave because he didn't want them to be in his house anymore, basically. After some time, police started to believe that CLEA could have been a victim of foul play because there really wasn't any reason that she would leave voluntarily. CLEA's family was highly suspicious of Dr. Amos. You see, the day right after CLEA's disappearance, Dr. Amos had to take a business trip to Texas, and he wasn't available to be interviewed by police until almost 2 weeks later, right before his home was searched. Since nothing came of the search and no new information surfaced, the case quickly went cold, and it would be years before any new interest was sparked. In 2012, investigators got a search warrant to conduct a formal search of the Amos property based on new information they received from witnesses. However, nothing came from this search either. Some evidence was mishandled, like the chain of custody was broken, and other evidence sat in police custody for weeks before they were even sent to a lab to get tested. When the samples collected were finally able to get tested, no blood was found on any of them. This year makes 27 years since CLEA's disappearance, and there have been no further developments since the 2012 search. The next case is the case of Marco Antonio Cadenas, and I just realized this, but CLEA disappeared on May 9th, 1994, and Marco disappeared on May 11th, 1994. I didn't pick these two cases because of that. I literally just realized this as I'm filming, which is a little crazy, but CLEA's case, 27 years have gone by, and her family has still kept hope and kept fighting for her case to be solved. And unfortunately, in Marco's case, it's a little different. It seems like his case has truly been forgotten. Marco was born on December 13th, 1984. He lived with his mother, Livia Cadenas, and his stepfather, Alfredo Cadenas, in Miami. Alfredo had raised Marco since he was 1. Marco's biological father lived in Ohio. Marco was a 3rd grader at the time of his disappearance, and it seemed like his home life was pretty rough. The family lived in the Northwest State Trailer Park, and this was an area that was pretty high crime. And Marco's mother, Livia, suffered from substance abuse, though I couldn't really find much information about this, so we don't know how long she had been suffering with this, if it happened like throughout Marco's life, if it was a recent thing or something that happened like right after his disappearance. Marco disappeared on May 11th, 1994. According to Livia, she and Marco had gone into an argument at home. And this argument happened after Marco got upset after seeing Livia hit Alfredo over the head with a bottle. Shortly after the discussion, Marco stormed out of the house barefoot, and he left a note behind that said, "I'm leaving you because you hit my daddy." Marco has never been seen again. 2 months after his disappearance, Marco's father was killed during a robbery at a grocery store, but this case is completely unrelated from Marco's disappearance. Marco's mother, Livia, passed away in April 1995, not even a full year after Marco's disappearance. And then Alfredo passed away in 2012. I don't typically get into theories on missing persons cases or unsolved cases, but a few details of this case stand out. The first detail is the argument between Livia and Marco. Some sources say that they were arguing because Livia was punishing Marco because he didn't want to take a shower. Other sources say that they were arguing because Marco was upset that Livia hit Alfredo. The second detail is about Marco running away. Some sources state that Marco had run away before, but in an interview, Livia told reporters that Marco had never run away before and this is the first time. Someone on Reddit mentioned that maybe Livia meant that he's left the house before, but he's always come back, but he's never ran away and left a note like he did this time, and maybe that's why this stood out to her and why she was concerned. Another thing to consider is that if Marco had in fact run away in the past, she probably didn't want to mention this to police because then they wouldn't have taken the case as serious from the start. And lastly, I did see somewhere that stated that Marco had run away before because Livia hit Alfredo, but he came back home, and then on this day, on May 11th, when Livia was arguing with him or punishing him about him not wanting to take a shower, he finally decided that he had enough of it and decided that this time he would run away for sure. A third detail to consider are the circumstances in which Marco ran away. A lot of kids, myself included, have claimed that they're running away, but they typically pack a little bag. Like, I'm not gonna lie, when I was little, I was probably around the same age, around like 9 or 10. I told my mom I was gonna run away. I packed a little bag. I even tried to not even trying to be funny because this is a very serious topic, but I tried to tie my belongings into like one of those things you see into the cartoons. But I didn't make it far. I made it to the shed in my backyard before I decided it was too cold and I had to go back inside. So for Marco to just literally leave without even putting on his shoes, that's something that's been stuck with me since I first read about this case, because you don't decide you're just leaving completely unprepared, especially if you're thinking that you're not coming back. Though a lot of little kids tend to play around barefoot, so maybe he had the intention of coming back. This is why a lot of people consider foul play in this case, especially because they lived in an area that had a lot of high crime. All of these details are the cause of so many questions, and there's virtually no information on this case out there. And the most heartbreaking part about it to me is that it seems like Marco has no family that's out there looking for him. Both of his biological parents are dead, as well as his stepfather that raised him as his own. So it doesn't seem like there's anyone out there that's like keeping his story alive. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about Marco's case, CLEA's case, or Dina and Wanda's cases. If you guys have any cases that you guys would like for me to look into, let me know down below as well. And that's it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.